Welcome to the Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm Kendra Grams, pastor at First Presbyterian Church in Hudson, and today I am honored to host another conversation about our wider community, this time about St. Croix County's upcoming Mental Health Symposium. And to talk about it, I'm honored to be joined by St. Croix County's Director of Health and Human Services, Bob Rohret, and peer support specialists Sophie Hansen and Kyle Van Blaircom. So we're looking forward to this conversation, and let's just start with introductions. So Bob, can you share a little bit about your role at the county and how you came to be there?
Sure. My name is Bob Rohret. I've been the director of Health and Human Services at St. Croix County for about 4 years now. Prior to that, I've worked in county government and nonprofit settings for up to 30 years.
Great. And Sophie and Kyle, tell us a little bit about what a peer support specialist does and what brought you to that role.
I'm Sophie, and I've been doing peer support for about 2 years now. And the best way I can describe peer support is essentially like one person having gone through a particular experience. For me, it was substance use and mental health challenges, helping another person navigate a similar experience. Peer support is all about promoting recovery, inspiring hope, really just walking with the person on their recovery journey.
So my name's Kyle Van Blaircom. I am peer support with Northwest Passage, and I've been doing this about a year. Kind of like what Sophie said, we're people with lived experience who are comfortable disclosing that with the people that we're working with. And ultimately, we're just trying to give them hope that recovery is and can be possible.
Great. Well, so along those lines, I know 2 years ago for the first Mental Health Symposium, the focus was suicide prevention, and last year there was a focus on substance use and its intersections with addiction. And so for this upcoming symposium on May 1st, Bob, you want to tell us what the focus is and what you hope to address?
Yes. The title of the symposium this year will be Supporting Young Minds, Understanding Mental Health in Emerging Adults. It's a long title.
Yeah, unpack that for us.
Yes, so our focus is going to be on, we're going to look at high school age kids that are transitioning into adulthood, either going into the workforce or going into college, and some of the specific or unique kinds of mental health challenges, maybe substance use challenges, that they're faced with as they make that transition. Just looking at my own life, I think, and reflecting on that, the kinds of things that younger people are experiencing today or have to contend with are much different than, say, when I was that age. So I think there are other people like me out there, parents or grandparents or educators or professionals, that all have that similar experience that I did, and it doesn't quite align with what younger people are going through today. So the symposium will focus a lot on what are those things that younger people are challenged with as they make this transition, and how do we help them with that?
Great. Well, and that kind of already segues into who do you hope will come to the symposium? Who are you trying to reach and empower and resource with information?
Really anyone that has an interest in supporting a person who's of that age going through that transitional phase of their life. More specifically, I would think parents, grandparents, family members, friends who want to support someone. It could be educators or professionals and policymakers. So really it's open to a broad array of potential audience members. Hopefully we'll get some young people there as well that want to hear what we have to say.
Great. Well, so thinking about those young people and knowing you guys are working directly with people facing all kinds of challenges, I assume some of them are younger. In your experience working with those youth and young adults, what are you seeing as some of the unique challenges that they're facing that might be a little different than generations before?
So the biggest difference, I've only worked with a few younger adults, maybe like 19, 20, 21. The biggest difference I notice is just like the peer influence, right? Mm-hmm. Like the sense of belonging. I've worked with a majority of older adults, but I notice as you go up the ladder, the issues more surround like isolation, and it's kind of the opposite for the younger people. So it could include like social media, trying to fit in. So we work a lot around like boundaries, setting boundaries, like how to pick the right friends group, finding natural supports that are healthy for you.
Yeah, and I think they're a lot more hip to mental health than substance use. So there, a lot of the individuals that I'm working with are really well versed when it comes to that. But building that trust is a little bit different. There's not so much the stigma piece with some of the older folks that I'm working with, but it's building that trust. It might take a handful of visits before we build a relationship. So.
Got it.
I agree with that. So I agree with that for sure. It seems like the younger people are more like emotionally intelligent, but they're harder sometimes to build that rapport with and trust.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also heard you say there might be a little difference between the emotional intelligence awareness of mental health, but perhaps substance abuse. Are you seeing a little difference of how younger generations are approaching substance abuse? Does that vary from older generations that you're working with?
Yeah, I think that just mental health as a whole, I think that the substance use, they know what it looks like, they're familiar with it. I just don't think, I think that there's just not as much stigma surrounding it for whatever reason. It just seems like they're more comfortable talking about it once you get to that point.
It's probably because they talk about it in schools and stuff a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, it's more socially like welcome now, I feel like, compared to the older generations.
The conversations about mental health at least are more broad and expansive among those younger generations. Well, building on that, you've already shared that you're peer support specialists, and that involves sharing some of your personal experiences and background. So how do those experiences kind of inform your approach to working with, empowering, resourcing, and supporting others?
So I think that having our lived experience, me and Kyle have pretty similar upbringings. We both started using and struggling at a really young age. So I think there's some universal struggles that people experience, hopelessness, lack of connection, all those, but it's important also to remember that not all recovery journeys are the same, right? So what worked for me might not work for other people. But I think it's all about empathy, right? When we've been in those dark places, it's easier for us to connect with the people that we work with. So it all serves a bigger purpose.
Yeah, we have this really unique ability to connect with people and meet them where they're at. And, I always think about what I would want to hear in that situation. And, I try to be the person that I wanted to show up in my life for me. So that looks different for every person, but yeah, I think it's just meeting them where they're at.
Yeah, it strikes me that mentioning the connection, the social dynamics that younger folks, as well as the isolation, that peer support model can kind of span both of those, of meeting some of those needs on both ends. Are there other things that you see as we think about the symposium and the focus on emerging adults? I like that. That's a new term for me. We've taken youth and young adults and emerging adults. As we think about that, do you think there are particular ways that peer support specialists can be helpful in that? Or are there ways that you think about using the peer model to help youth help one another too? Are there ways those translate?
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate goal, right? Is to have peer support's not just having me and Kyle are professionals, right? But it's also about mutuality just within your friends groups. There's a lot of programs that are newer. I brought up in a meeting recently. I can't remember what they're called, but there's many different programs that implement peer support model within the schools, and they teach the kids. They'll have a couple people that are trained in it, a couple of the kids, and they can train people in it. And it's a mutual group for people to come together and express, the struggles that they're going through, whether it be mental health, substance use. It's a safe space. There's confidentiality. I think that it's way bigger than just our role as professional, certified peer specialists.
Great.
Yeah,
Anything you'd add?
I would agree with that. Yeah, well said.
Oh, wonderful. Well, just as a reminder, the symposium is May 1st from 5:30 to 7:30. I got that right?
Yes.
At St. Croix Central High School at the auditorium. And I found great information myself at the St. Croix County's website, so check that out, sccwi.gov. But we want to talk more broadly too. This is a good taste of, I think what they're going to get at the symposium, these wonderful resources. But for those that are seeking out resources right now, let's just take a minute and share some more previews. What are some things that you all do as mental health professionals to model that, to keep your mental health up as you support others? We'll give them a break. Bob, we'll go to you.
Right. Well, I think that's a really good point to make, though, that professionals who work in who do this kind of work have to think about their own mental health. And mental health is health, right? So, there are some ways to do that through setting boundaries between your work and your personal life, exercise and diet and all of those things. But sometimes even professionals who work in this field also need other professionals to talk to. And, as we try and reduce the stigma around around mental health and addiction, which are connected oftentimes. As we try and reduce the stigma around that, we try and encourage people to think of their mental health in the same or similar way that they think of their physical health and emotional health, so that they're not prevented internally from going and seeking assistance if they need it, even people that work in this profession.
Yes, I can echo at that. I had a recent conversation with someone who was wrestling with, but I'm not sick, right? But that encouragement of, well, let's get you connected because this could lead to other things. So that's great. What else would you guys add as things that help you keep your mental health up as your service, you're helping others, or just resources, programs that you often put before people as options for their help?
So I'm very engaged in a few recovery groups that I attend pretty regularly. I see a therapist once every 2 weeks, so that's been very helpful. I think it's just staying connected, and I have to put my own recovery in first when helping other people. So, and then I can show up in the best way for other people if I'm doing that.
Absolutely. What about you, Sophie?
Basically the same. I'm a huge advocate for therapy. I think it's important. I think anybody can go get therapy. I think that it's cool. I have a therapist I've been working with off and on the past year and a half, but I see her a lot more when I have public speaking engagements coming up. So I just saw her today actually. But I think it's great. I think it's important to have somebody to talk to. I think it's important to have a support network. I have a recovery community that I'm pretty tight with, and it's good to have that community of people, whether it's family, recovery community, friends, close friends. I have a lot of amazing friends. And also just being self-aware, I think that for me, meditation and just having time to make sure my life is balanced is really important, paying attention to those wellness domains. And yeah, that's what I have.
And what other advice, particularly if somebody's in crisis or really struggling, what are your go-tos that you always give to folks to help them get past that and hopefully on a healthy and whole road? You want to start?
There's a variety of options. Of course, St. Croix County offers mental health and substance use disorder counseling and support. But if it's a crisis situation where somebody is in the moment, needs help, there's the 988 number, the suicide, I have to read it, prevention lifeline, that people can call and get immediate help. There's the 211 line through United Way of St. Croix Valley that provides assistance in finding resources or specifically to mental health or other kinds of needs. If it's an emergency, I tend to think of it in the terms of, again, with physical health. If you're having a physical health emergency, you go to the emergency room or you call 911.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else you would add? That's a good coverage of crisis maybe, but other things just for anybody who's struggling, go-to tips or things to keep in mind.
So bouncing off of that, there's also the Uplift Wisconsin, which is a really good resource. It's a warm line that you can call, and they're certified peer specialists on the other line, and they have They're
12 to
more,
12.
they're what?
It's 12 to 12.
12 to 12 for now, but they're trying to make it 24/7. But it's really nice because they kind of use the peer support values, you know, so they're not going to call 911 because that could cause like re-traumatization, and they have just like that more, that mutuality and that connectedness. But also 988 is a great resource. I'd say it just really, as far as peer support goes, it just depends on what the person's going through, right? Like I mentioned, I work with a lot of people that struggle with isolation. So a big resource for me has been the senior centers. We go to that a lot. If it's older adults, otherwise like the library, just going to classes. If it's mental health, there's so many support groups. There's AA, NA, Smart Recovery, Recovery Dharma, Celebrate Recovery. I mean, there's a lot of resources as far as support groups goes. And mental health, there's NAMI. Yeah, there's a lot of great resources out there. What do you got, Kyle?
Yeah, I would just say if I would give somebody advice, it would be to reach out. I know it's really scary, and a lot of times, you know, you think worst case scenario, and you think that, you know, you're going to get in trouble or something if you're honest about where you're at, but there's a lot of people out there that really want to help. And I think just taking that first step, whatever that is, even if it's a friend, you know, and just sharing where you're at, I think that's huge. So.
Yeah. And that's a good reminder to keep reaching out, and listed lots of great resources. So I always tell people, if it doesn't work the first time, there's another resource that might be a better fit for you. And it sounds like you guys do a lot of helping people navigate that as well as peer support specialists. So one more reminder. The upcoming symposium is Supporting Young Minds Understanding Mental Health in Emerging Adults. Did I get the whole
Yes,
mouthful?
you did. Yes, you did.
On May 1st, again, 5:30 to 7:30 at St. Croix Central High School in Hammond in the auditorium. So encourage you to go check out more website check out the county website, sccwi.gov, get all the information. Any final words to add?
I just want to I appreciate the work that Sophie and Kyle do, and people who are in that peer specialist role. It's so critical, and it's a missing gap oftentimes in the system of care that we have. They can offer support in a way that traditional treatment sometimes can't, where somebody's in an office setting. Again, I just appreciate their work and their willingness to be part of this symposium.
Yes. So a good taste of what you'll get if you come to the symposium. Anything you guys wanted to add?
I mean, as far as the symposium goes and the topic in general, I just want to say, you know, if people are struggling, don't be afraid to reach out and keep going. You just never know when life could get better. So.
That is a great final encouragement, and thank you to both of you for modeling that and sharing a little bit of what people will be able to experience at the symposium. So we hope you'll put it on your calendar. Thank you to all of you for being with us today and for all you do throughout the county to support others. Thank you to all of you for giving us this time, for wanting to learn more and to live out values and wholeness for our whole community. Thank you, of course, to the River Channel for hosting us. Until we can be back together again, we hope that you all will have good mental health, wholeness, and balance in your lives.